Welcome to my talk on living with ADHD in InfoSec, and graphics here is done by my friends in a marketing company called Black Rabbit in Poland. They did Project 2030 with Michael some years ago, and they did this pro bono. So yeah, gives them some love for that. Well, obviously, this is a very personal talk, but I do it to raise awareness about what ADHD also is, break down taboos, and hopefully inspire others to also break the taboo or help to do it, to get diagnosis or just get a better life. And the illustration you see there is, to me, it's very accurate to what my ADHD is, because there was this big mess inside my head which prevented me from concentrating all the time. And yeah, it's a very good picture of that, I think. But first of all, if anyone here has black pets, then you know the challenge, because the worst thing about black cats is that, yeah, you can't really take a good photo of them, and then when you do, nobody can see how awful cute your pets are. So in case you're wondering, it's not me that has a weird head shape or anything. That's my black cats. I'm 48. I live in Copenhagen along with these two and my wife as well. I've been in security since 2004, and during that time, I've tried a lot of things. Yeah, funny enough, I always wanted to try new things all the time, and that was many years ago. I found out that ADHD could be the reason for that. So I've done anything from source code reviews to vulnerability scanning to security training, governance, risk compliance, maturity assessment, and I used to work as security architect in a few companies before my career took a turn. I've been involved in my local OVAS chapter since 2008, and I co-founded BSAS Copenhagen in 2019. Yeah, and then a year and a half ago, I went freelance, trying to help companies get more secure, but also teaching them to use the InfoSec community as a marketing channel, both to bring business and talent. There's no need to take photos of slides or anything, or screenshots or whatever you want to do, because the last slide is a QR code, which I promise is legit, that you can use to download the entire slide set. And speaking of BSAS Copenhagen, we have the next conference in November at the IT University in Copenhagen, and in 2023 we had 400 attendees, and it's going to be even bigger this year. So yeah. Anyway, that was all the advertisement. Now comes the talk. I was fired twice in the last 4 years. And that's the best thing that happened, because it was a good opportunity for me to stop, reflect over my situation. So let me start from the beginning, because you see, I may look relatively normal, as we all do, but looks to see, because I have ADHD, and that's okay, because I was diagnosed 4 years ago, and as I said before, I'm 48, so I was diagnosed age 44. And that's not really unusual with ADD, which I have. It's called that is what it's called when there's no hyperactivity involved, because nobody can really see what's going on. So that, to me, that explained a lot, because I had increasing problems concentrating for, I don't know, 10, 15 years, and I didn't really have a clue why. Also, we became increasingly harder to get a job I care about and to keep it, of course. Among other things, this led me to be not very effective, and that was definitely one of the reasons, one of many, why I had so many short employments and getting fired over and over. And obviously, it started to burden me and my wife as well. So something just had to change. But first, let me tell you a little bit about ADHD, because I didn't know anything about ADHD before I was diagnosed, so I assume you don't either, although there's been other speakers like Lisa before who told you a bit. All right. ADHD, ADD, what is it? What's the difference? Actually, it's the same, more or less. Symptoms are the same, but symptoms differ, but it's the same root cause. And it stands for attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. You can have one of them, attention deficit, or you can have hyperactivity, or you can have both. It's still ADHD. And to me, the most groundbreaking thing about learning more about ADHD was to find out that it's not just those annoying kids who can't sit still in school who has ADHD. It can also be, relatively well-functioning people like me that can have it. And as I said before, without hyperactivity, it's sometimes called ADD, where the chaos is just inside your brain. So yeah, and getting a diagnosis, as I said before, that's normal, getting relatively late in life, especially when you have the age I have, because back in the 80s, there was no such thing as ADHD. So ADHD can take many shapes and forms, and yet many things can be in common and connected. And when I find out about that, I was groundbreaking, because all of a sudden there was an explanation to many of all of those shortcomings who had, just been there always, and I had no idea why they were there. So yeah, well, enter the ADHD iceberg of common misperceptions. I came across this looking for a good way to illustrate what ADHD is, as well as common misperceptions. As you probably know about those icebergs, is that you can only see a little part of it, and a big part of it is unseen, and those are the things that ADHD really is. And my challenges, yeah, focus. I usually can't concentrate, although things have gotten better with my own medication, which I will talk about later. Sensory processing disorder, I had no idea what that is, so I had to look it up. It means that there's rarely any mood swings at all. Not any good or bad. Well, there rarely isn't, and that that's how it is. It's both good and bad. I have a poor sense of time. I'm a lousy planner, really. I also have trouble recalling common words, and trust me, that is annoying. It's difficult for me to switch tasks or just stay to one. I guess that is pretty normal. Choice paralysis. I really hate Netflix. There is simply too much to watch, too many choices. It just makes me dizzy. I really want to go back to the old times of Flow TV. Yeah, also poor impulse control. When I get the thought of impulse or something I want to eat, it's really hard to let go. Well, hello, obesity, right? Forgetting thoughts. Yeah, I'm also really bad at remembering names. So if you meet me and I have no idea who you are, sorry, it's not personal. I'm also really bad at remembering movies and TV shows I've seen, which is not necessarily a bad idea, because I can rewatch The Mandalorian whenever I get bored of all the other reruns. So, all the other spin-offs. To me, it's also very much all or nothing. So if a customer won't do security properly but wants to cut corners, they can kiss my butt, is what I want to say, but of course, obviously I don't. Well, speaking of things that you learn along the way from your own experience, it's not really good to be that frank. Executive dysfunctions. Sometimes I just say stuff. Sometimes that's a really bad idea. Luckily, I live in a part of the world where honesty is usually appreciated. So, yeah, but again, too much honesty, yeah, not always a good idea. I have a difficulty following and maintaining conversation, which is not so bad, especially not after I got my meds. Unless I meet somebody with the same diagnosis as myself, then it's really weird. We go from this talk to this talk to this subject to another thing, and I have no idea. I have no idea what happened, but that usually happens when I meet someone who is more or less like me. And also, chronic unemployment. Yeah, which is obviously not that bad, but I do see a trend in my challenges and as well as in overall statistics. So looking at this, I feel incredibly lucky because things could have been a lot harder. So yeah, how about yourself? Because the overview from all the things before was taken from ASRS, which is Adult ADHD Self-Report Scale, made by WHO, and you can use the QR code later, of course, not now, to see if there's any signs of ADHD in yourself. And the first time I saw this list of symptoms that some of them seem to be not really related, but still, it really blew me away, because suddenly there was a reasoning for and connection between many of those seemingly stupid and unexplainable things I did. Those things that had driven my wife crazy for years. So yeah, to me, understanding what's going on really meant a lot. So an important thing to say is that you are not ADHD, you have ADHD, and that means that you have challenges with your diagnosis, but they can be overcome. And the key to that is knowledge. Know about ADHD, know yourself, so you can mitigate. It's just like any other risk, right? Mitigate it. So yeah, here's a list of things that I've done to cope better. Maybe it can help you too, because as I said before, understanding your ADHD is vital, so you can mitigate. The first thing I did was, medicine. It made a huge difference to me. Around the time when I was diagnosed, I was considering not to drive my car anymore, because, there were similar things that I didn't see in traffic, and it didn't take much imagination to see that it could end fatally, and of course I wouldn't want that. But luckily, when I did get my medication, it really changed to the better. And also after I started my meds, I'm much better at deep conversations with my wife, and now I'm also somehow better at playing board games, which we love. I really have a hard time sitting still. So the drug I'm taking has 3 names. It's called Elvans or Advance here in Europe. It's called Vyvanse in the US, and it's called lisdexamfetamine. And it really is, amphetamine. It really boosts my brain, which is good, because as a neurotypical, you have no idea how it is to have a brain that doesn't work all day. But that's how it is. And after I got the meds, now it works all day, and it's fantastic. Nootropics. I really recommend Googling nootropics ADHD DAG for inspiration. This is what works for me. I take L-theanine, L-tyrosine, and multivitamins 30 minutes before breakfast, and that really helps my concentration. And those 2 are amino acids. Yeah, and another thing that helps me is headphones with quote unquote ADHD focus music. That's what I search for in Spotify, because really my brain doesn't want to concentrate. But if I somehow put on my earphones and I listen to that kind of music, yeah, all of a sudden my brain doesn't fight against it anymore, and it's much easier for me. I have no idea why or how, but I don't care. It works. So yeah, the noise in my head that I talked about in the beginning. One thing that really helped me is breathing exercises that I do every morning. They make them go away, and they are made by this happy guy here. He's an Indian, and he's the head of something called Art of Living, and it looks a little bit like a cult. And honestly, I have no idea, and I don't care, because whatever exercises they do really works. Art of Living are around everywhere in the world, and they have courses. So look them up and do the course, and then after breathing exercises, your head is just still. There is nothing going on, which is, as an ADHD person, is really uncommon. So that's really nice. And yeah, as I said before, the exercises work, so I don't really care about the cult thing. Yeah, and the job situation. Yeah, what to do about that? Well, back to why getting fired was a good thing for me, because the first thing I was fired, that was the first thing career path when I got into marketing and community. I was not really quite there, and also I got fired again. So it didn't solve all my problems. And the second time I was fired, yeah, I got an experience with a new career path. I was inspired to do some last job adjustments and go freelance, because getting fired all the time means insecurity, and I don't want that anymore. So the best way for me is to become my own boss and go freelance, and that also gives a diversity in task. I get to do different things, fun things, and the biggest challenge for me when having a steady job is that I get bored really fast. Like the second time I'm doing task, I get bored, and I really, I just can't do it. So to me, the more different things I can do, the more variation I can have in my tasks, the better. I love being thrown into things I don't know anything about, because then I can find out and then I can do it, and that's really cool. I can also work. It gives me some flexibility, so I can work when my brain works, which is cool. Also, things are simpler, right? Because even my brain can understand it, that if I don't earn money, then I won't have money, and then everything is going to go bad. So to me, that's motivating. So here's an overview of other things I learned along the way. Maybe it could help you out if you're in a similar situation. The first thing I learned is that if there is no problem, don't fix it. Meaning that don't get a diagnosis if you don't have any problem, because once you're diagnosed, there is no turning back. And honestly, you don't want that stamp if there really aren't any good upsides, like getting the meds. To me, when I was diagnosed, all of a sudden it was a problem getting a life insurance, which to me was really, really weird. One of the companies that turned me down on it was because I had medication, which to me was really, really stupid. So yeah, that is obviously a blogger. And also another thing I learned, which is that ADHD is normal to have, at least in our line of business. So the more I've been talking about it, the more I've been talking to people, the more I realize that it's almost before it's normal. It's abnormal not to have some kind of neurodiversity in our field, and that's really, to me that makes it cool and wonderful to live in security with all the different various people there. So another thing, find your strengths and weaknesses, and you can compare it a little bit to being short-sighted, because if you're short-sighted, it's very normal to compensate and wear glasses, and it's the same thing if it's an neurological, if it's a mental thing, it's still a risk. It's still something that needs to be compensated. And also, embrace and accept your weaknesses. Find out what helps you mitigate them. Find your superpowers, which is a popular, somehow bullshitty thing to say, but find out which ADHD trait makes you excel, and turn your career towards that, if you can and if it's needed. Well, talking about superpowers and icebergs, here is the ADHD iceberg. And you can also learn about my strengths as a bonus. Well, literally anything they find interesting. Anyone recognize this? Because I sure do. Authenticity, what you see is what you get. And luckily, as I said before, where I come from, that is mostly a strength. I'm not really good at shrink wrapping things and being someone else. Yeah, I just can't bother. Also, brainstorming, creativity. I'm really not very good at getting the first idea, but all the thousand after the first ones, I get them, and I get a lot of those. So optimism / stupidity. I mean, what can possibly go wrong with this freelancing thing? Well, a lot of things, as it turns out, but still, I don't regret it. And yes, I'm incredibly funny. At least I think so myself. When people know that you're not neurotypical, they can better understand. Because obviously it's hard for them to be mad at you if they understand what's going on. And that goes for everybody in your life, spouse, friends, even employers. And I'll talk more about that very soon. And also if you met one person with ADHD, well, then you have met just one person with ADHD, because my ADHD is not yours and yours are not mine. They can really differ a lot. There can be a lot of things in common, but still also differ a lot. Yeah, and as I said, today I've described my ADHD, not yours, not anyone else's. And yeah, actually, this is not the right headline, because it's really not about ADHD. It's really about neurodivergence. Actually, that's not right either, because it's really about embracing people, embracing difference, so that everybody can work the way they want to and the way that works best for them, no matter who they are. So yeah, and just to emphasize this, you're not drunk or having a severe case of amnesia. This is not the front page you're seeing again. There is one significant difference, because now we're talking about working with ADHD in InfoSec. And you know what? I have a theory. And the theory is that neurodivergence is overrepresented in cybersecurity. And you know why that? Why is that? You know, the last 20 years has taught me that the whole journey of getting diagnosed and working with myself. And the reason why there are so many in cybersecurity who are neurodivergent is that the upside, they are the actual advantages of many of the things we do. So, you know, that security analyst who finds signs of an intruder in the log and falls into a deep hole of hyperfocus until they know for sure, you know, that is what makes them brilliant at their job. But it's also what makes things hard. So it's all what makes it hard for the employers who put them in a box like everyone else, or you know, like many other people, and thinking that they can be working in the office every day from 9 to 5 or whatever, because you know that's not necessarily how things work. I used to work with a customer in Copenhagen that had flexible seating, and the boss I had there, he told me of one of his guys on the team who spent 3 weeks getting used to a new seat every time he's forced to change. So you know, one thing he said, and we talked about, is that the flexible seating isn't really that important. Yeah, we know it's company policy, but you know, what's the most important thing here? And obviously, seating is not the most important thing here. Although it may be company policy, but you know, why? So, and why would we even talk about this? There are a lot of numbers. I came across this report last year, made by Birkbeck Center of Neurodiversity Research at Work. They're the first research center of its kind in the UK, and in this report, 1,117 participants were interviewed, 127 employers, and 990 neurodivergent employees. And the vast majority of respondents had ADHD and/or autism. And there are really many things to talk about. If you're interested, I really urge you to find it yourself. There's a link in my slides. So here's a few relevant findings. And even though this is just the UK, I'm sure most of it is generally applicable. In discrimination, 65% are concerned, or churn. You know, 42% of neurodivergent employees are likely or very likely to leave the organization because, yeah, it is just hard. As I said, hard to keep the job and hard to keep yourself motivated for a lot of reasons. But obviously, luckily, there is also upsides and assets to work with, because there are strengths. Do we recognize and value these in the organization among employees, like hyper focus, for instance, creativity, innovative thinking, detailed processing, and obviously adjustments are an effective way to keep down the churn, because it's in everybody's interest. The report said that 31% of neurodivergent employees are very likely to leave an organization with no adjustment in place, and that decreases to 8% if the workplace is tailored just a little bit. So luckily, it's not that hard, because most adjustments, they are both simple and cheap. And I'll talk a little bit more about that on the next slide. Looks a little bit into what Lisa talked about in the previous talk, about having a flexible schedule and being able to work from home and having a private space to work in when needed. The ability to change noise levels and adapt work rules, policies, procedures, because as an example before, something is policies and they of course are valid for entire company, but sometimes you really have to ask yourself, why is this important and what is the most important thing here? And those are one of those times. The ability to change intensity of lighting and coaching communication, memory issues, time management, and much more. So again, for employers, what is important to you, right? As an employer, to me, the only thing an employer should care about is whether an employee does what they're supposed to do in the right time, in the right quality, right? Where they work, how they work, when they work, does that really matter? Honestly, it shouldn't, at least. Focus on what really matters and also what doesn't, and also think more flexible. Yeah, as I said before, if a certain task is solved at whatever time you agreed upon, well, does it really matter, the rest of it? Because different people have different needs. Because some can function in open office space, like me. Some need help paying daily, also me. Some need to work on weird hours, or whatever it can be. Because support those needs and make clear to yourself what's important from this employee and focus on that. And also, don't ask, what can I do to help you? Because as an employee, you don't know, can I ask for a gold Ferrari, or what can I ask for? Instead, say, would it help if this and that? Because people, as I said before, people don't know what they can ask. So being more accepting and focusing on helping employees succeed is literally a win-win, because it costs a lot of money to fire people, and also as the neurodivergent person, it's probably not the first time they've tried being fired, because it happens more than for everyone else. So yeah, the final words I have on this. I started doing this to help others out and to spread awareness. I've done that many times already. I've been doing this talk for in different iterations, of course, for the last year and a half, and I really talked to a lot of people. And I know I've made a difference already. And it turns out that people need a role model. I hadn't expected that was my job, but well, here we are. Because more than one person told me that I've been a reason why they dare to be open, why they dared to tell the employee. More than one person told me that I've been a reason why they dared to be open, why they dared to tell their employer, and for that, I feel incredibly privileged. Well, I hope to have made a difference to someone here today, because really that really makes it all worth it. So yeah, any questions?